I don't think you can see the mayonnaise in the back of my shot. Squid Game, the most popular Netflix show ever. Along with its adoring fans comes millions of people asking themselves, would I win the Squid Games? No, you wouldn't. Now, I don't mean that in a rude way, and I don't actually mean that. If you did end up in the Squid Games, there would be a possibility that you might win, but the actual chance of you getting there is very, very small. Very, very small. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. This video is going to be about analysing Squid Game and the theme of choice present throughout the series. Are the Squid Games even fair, and are the choices that the contestants are given actually real? As you can imagine, this video will contain many, many, many heavy spoilers for Squid Game, so if you have not watched the show, go to Netflix, watch it, then come back. This is a threat. Also, if my voice sounds really bad in this video, it's because I'm sick, but don't worry, I've got some hot orange for it. Oh, that's hot. Now, the first thing that I'm going to talk about in this video is the setup. First of all, we're going to talk about the setup of the main character. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Seong Gi-Hun. Gonna call him Seong. If I get it wrong, I do apologise. Within the first episode of the show, the first things that we learn about our main character, our main boy Seong, is that he is not opposed to stealing from his mother. He will go out of his way to steal from his mother. He enjoys gambling, and he gambles so far to a point of not giving his daughter a birthday present. We also learn that he owes a lot of money to some very lovely loan sharks, so that's also important to keep in mind. As we're going to be focusing on the idea of choices in this analysis/review, the choices that Seong makes before he enters the games or even gets approached by the man asking him to enter the games is that he makes the choice to steal money, he makes the choice to then gamble that money, and he makes the choice that when he does gain a little bit of money, he doesn't just buy his daughter a gift or take her to the fried chicken shop, which is where his mum said that she would love to go. He gambles his money again on a claw machine to try and get a better gift that ends up being a lot worse. What this tells us about our main guy Seong is that he is addicted to gambling. And he's in debt. And so he's quite desperate. Now, for the setup of the main guys who run the games, I'm just going to call them the Masks for continuity purposes, because I don't think we're ever told the name of their organisation. So they, from now on, will be called the Masks. Now, the Masks are somehow connected to the loan sharks whom Seong owes a lot of his money to, because they are the ones that actually get him to sign the little, thing that makes him basically, he can have lots of bodily harm done to him and no one can be sued. No one can be sued for that. So what we can imply from that is that the Masks are connected to a lot of dodgy people and a lot of people who are kind of in the loan collector profession. The next thing that we learn about the Masks is that they are not opposed to violence. The first member from the Masks you can assume that Seong meets is in fact the man at the train station, who slaps him repeatedly. And if you're looking at the beginning scene before the games actually start, the Masks actually give all of the players a lot of different choices. The only choice that doesn't seem to be given to Seong is to sign that contract at the very beginning, but even that was perpetrated by the loan sharks, so it isn't actually done by a member of the Masks Association/corporation. I'm not sure how they're registered. From then on, the choice to participate in the game that involves in the slapping is very much down to Seong. The choice to actually call them up and register for the games is also up to the player, and the choice to actually meet them in the car to be taken to the games is also up to the player. Now, given that these are choices, and logically speaking, people could say no to them, that is not the case in these circumstances. This setup works exceedingly well because the Masks are only targeting those who are in enough debt or who are so in need of money that they are willing to sign away their rights to their kind of injury, body, kind of any sort of bad things that could happen to them. This is the first thing. And then my theory is that the game that we'll call him a well-dressed gentleman in the railway station has with Seong, that game is actually a test to see if the players are actually willing to experience bodily harm when there is the reward of money involved. Now, I would imagine that those that choose not to partake in this game, or those that flee or just don't want to be a part of it, would never get contacted into joining the games. It is only those that have shown that they are willing to be hurt multiple times, knowing that they're going to get hurt and continually hurt, that they invite to the games. And even then, these people also need to proactively be so obsessed with wanting the money that they then call them to potentially experience more bodily harm to gain the money. Now, a second clever thing that they do in the very first episode is that they give the player the choice to join the games immediately after they gain a monetary reward. This is kind of very similar to how gambling often works. When you first join a gambling app or you play on a gambling machine, often there'll be such advertisements as like your first free slot, a guaranteed win, like free £5 if you join up now. Winning something and doing something well releases dopamine in the brain, which is a happiness hormone. And so what the masks are actually doing at this moment is giving the contestants a hit of dopamine right before asking them to make a decision. And the focus of that decision is that they could win more money, which gives them more dopamine. The state that they've put their players in is that their players are both very desperate and have just experienced winning for maybe the first time in a while. They would be filled with kind of an adrenaline and thinking that they could actually compete and win in these games, which is my theory as to why most of them said yes. Now, this is what I'm going to refer to as the illusion of choice. Logically, in the player's brain, they can say, well, I could say no to this. They're not forcing me to say yes to this. But actually, the circumstances which the masks have kind of developed for them to have this choice in means that it's very unlikely that these individuals, who they know for a fact are already desperate for money, are going to say no to this opportunity. As well as this, the well-dressed gentleman at the train station has already proved himself and therefore his organisation as being trustworthy enough to actually give the players money. All the players genuinely received money and were able to use it, and so they're not going to suspect that the games are going to deceive them in the talk of winning a massive prize, which they don't. And this is why people like me, and most likely you, would probably never even get invited to the games. The prerequisite to be invited to the games is that you have to be in some sort of debt, in dire need of some sort of money, and be willing enough to be slapped in the face multiple times to even be asked to compete. There is very few of us who I'm sure would fit all those circumstances right now. And they are circumstances that are integral to the games working in the way that they do. This is shown very well in the third episode when the players are all taken back home. This is kind of a test for all the players and for the organisation to test that the circumstances that the players are in back home are bad enough that they are continually willing to risk their life for money. This, again, wouldn't work if your home life wasn't bad. Your home life and life in the real world was quite good, and you knew that going back may mean that you get killed. It's really not worth it. Now, rewinding back to one of the other major choices that happens in the games. This is whether they terminate the games or not the first time when a majority of the players are still alive. Now, in this scene, they all have to go up and press a button as to say whether they want the games to continue or to stop. Now, this is a very interesting scene. When I was first watching it, I thought that the old man who is number one would ask for the games to continue, but the fact that he said no is just an amazing storytelling device. But anyway, the interesting thing about that is that when the players ask for a vote to see if they want the games to continue, it's pretty safe to assume that most of them didn't want the games to continue and would have voted immediately no. However, the masks make a very, very calculated choice in showing them the prize money. Now, what this showing of the massive piggy bank in the sky will do is it will first of all trigger their brain into remembering the first time when they won money, just before they actually came to the games, and how it was the very same people who gave them that money that is now promising them more money. This means that there's no doubt in their eyes that that money could genuinely be theirs. The second thing that it does, having it actually physically there, you can see the individual notes, is that it kind of proves that the people have this much money. You could literally get on a ladder and probably kind of count up how much money was in there to prove that they were doing the right thing, rather than just a number in a bank account, for instance. It's much more difficult to think about numbers on a screen being real money compared to actually notes that you can hold or coins that you can hold. And the piggy bank literally being in the room where the players sleep means that the players are continually reminded of the potential prize that they could win. This is similar to in gambling machines, where the jackpot is displayed on the very top of the machine all the time. You're so close to actually winning that money. It tricks your brain into thinking that you've already kind of won the money, or makes you desperate enough that you'll do whatever you can to get it. And the fact that the masks did show that money and then get them to vote just shows how cleverly the games are thought out in the kind of perspective of choice, because logically the choice to terminate the games being a unanimous decision is a very fair thing to do. However, coupled with seeing the money right in front of you makes it a very one-sided decision, particularly as it's likely that a fair few, just like our main character Seong, are in fact gamblers. Now, these are the two main examples of the kind of illusion of choice that the masks give the contestants in Squid Game. And choice is used quite a lot in the show. There's the choice of which shape to pick in the honeycomb challenge. There's the very end where you can pick whether you're playing offensive or defensive. There's the choice of which number in the lineup you are going to be to cross the glass bridge. And there's the choice of who your team are going to be in the tug of war. But a lot of these choices are given to you blindly. The choice to actually join the games was completely blind because you have no idea what the games actually are like. The choice of the honeycomb is completely blind because you have no idea what the challenge actually is. And the same with the tug of war and the place you go in the glass pane challenge. The only choice that I could kind of justify being a genuine choice that the players get to take is to return to the games. Now, the beauty about how the show is set up is that the people that are chosen to attend the Squid Games are people whose real life is so bad that they are willing to get slapped to gain a small bit of money. And it's likely that their real life is also so bad that they are willing to risk their life to gain a much larger sum of money. The beauty of the show Squid Game is that the masks aren't actually going back on any of their promises. The winner of the game gets the money. Everyone signs a contract that says that if they stop playing the games or they lose the games, they will be eliminated. The games say that if there is a unanimous vote that the games want to end, the games can end. The games do end when the players vote unanimously that they want them to. The cleverness that it has comes from the additional circumstances that are enforced on the players when they're made to make these decisions. Particularly big decisions, for instance, joining the Squid Game in the first place, returning to the Squid Game, and deciding whether the games should be terminated. And so that's why I don't think you'd win the Squid Game. If the show had never been created and you had met someone on the street who said, "I will give you money if you play this game for me, the only thing that I will do if I win is slap you," I'm sure most people would actually say no to playing that game. And even then, if you're given a card to call to join a game where you might experience bodily harm in the exchange for massive amounts of money, you probably wouldn't go. Because the truth is that most people aren't in a desperate enough state to need that or want that. And that's what makes the game so clever. On paper, they are completely fair, but in reality, they're not. I think it's a really interesting look into human psychology and how humans interact in difficult circumstances. And I'm definitely going to be watching it again to see what other things I missed. If you like this video, please like the video. It helps me out a whole lot, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, my friend. Hopefully I'll see you in another video sometime soon. Okay, bye. Our orange is less hot now.